Today we are talking about evaluating functions, and it's first of all important to understand what it means to evaluate. So when we're evaluating function, that means that we are finding, so it means to find a value for the function. So we're just finding a value. We're going to be doing some math, obviously. You've probably seen equations like y equals 2x plus 5. That's the exact same thing as f of x equals 2x plus 5. And we're going to be focusing today on this notation, f of x equals 2x plus 5. So when you see this weird fx in parentheses thing, remember that is just read as f of x. And that stands for, or what that means is that we're taking a function and we're evaluating it at x. Instead of f of x, we could also use things like g of x, or we could use h of x, or we could use m of x. So really we can use any letter we would like to in front, and that's just denoting which function we're using. So in a second, we're going to look at an example where we have a couple different functions. So now to actually get into the math and what we're doing. So I have this function, f of x equals x plus 5, and I'm supposed to find f of 2. I promise you this seems way more complicated than it actually is, because all they're really telling us when you see this weird f of 2 notation here, all they're telling us is that my x value is 2. It means that x is 2. That's it. So if this x is 2, that also means that this x is 2. So we are going to plug in 2 for x. So I'm going to rewrite my function, but instead of x, I'm going to rewrite it with a 2 in there because that's what it told us x was. X was 2. So f of 2 equals, again, instead of x, I'm going to plug in a 2 plus 5. So the only thing that's different from here, f of x equals x plus 5, to here, f of 2 equals 2 plus 5, is that I replaced both of my x values with 2. So now I'm just going to do a little bit of math. So on the left-hand side, I still have f of 2 equals, well, on the right-hand side, all I have to do is add. It says 2 plus 5. Well, 2 plus 5 is 7, so my answer is f of 2 equals 7. And what we found is we've actually found out that when x is 2, according to this function right here, remember f of x is the same thing as y, so when x is 2, y is 7. And that's going to be a point on our graph. Now we're not graphing today, but that's really what that means. So we have a couple more problems here at the bottom that we're going to do. And this time we have two different functions. We have g of x equals 3x minus 5 and h of x equals negative 2x plus 7. So since we have two different functions, we're just going to have to each time figure out which function we're going to use. So for the first example, we have find g of negative 6. Well, since there's a g in front of this, that tells me I'm going to use the g of x function. The g of x function says that g of x equals 3x minus 5. But for this problem, they've told us that x is negative 6. So that means all of my x's here are getting replaced with negative 6. So I'm going to rewrite the function, but instead of x, just rewrite a negative 6 there. So g of negative 6 equals 3 times negative 6 minus 5. It's important to note that if you take out a letter and put in a number, you need to put that number in parentheses every single time. So now we can use our order of operations, or PEMDAS, to finish the problem. So we have 3 times, we're going to take care of our multiplication first. So g of negative 6 equals 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Minus 5, and then now I can combine my negative 18 and my minus 5. I can subtract those, and negative 18 minus 5 is going to give me negative 23. So my answer to this question would be g of negative 6 equals negative 23. So now I'm supposed to find h of 1, so that means I'm going to use my h function, which says that h of x equals negative 2x plus 7. And they're telling me this time that my x value is 1, so I'm going to replace all of my x's with a 1. So I'm going to rewrite the function h of 1 equals negative 2 times, instead of x, I'm going to put 1 in there, plus 7. And again, just following my order of operations, I'm going to take care of my multiplication first. So I'm going to multiply negative 2 times 1, which is negative 2 plus 7. And then I can do my addition. So h of 1 equals negative 2 plus 7 is 5. So h of 1 equals 5 would be my final answer. My final problem says that find g of 3. So since there's a g there, I need to use my g of x equals 3x minus 5. This time, since I'm finding g of 3, that means that my x value is 3. So I'm going to rewrite the problem with, instead of x, I'm going to plug in 3. So g of 3 equals 3 times 3 minus 5. So following order of operations, I'm going to take care of my multiplication first. And 3 times 3 is 9 minus 5. And then I can do my subtraction. So g of 3 equals, and 9 minus 5 gives me 4. So my final answer is g of 3 equals 4.